Brother Chairman, brothers and sisters here at Exxon.
Excel.
Yes, here in Jakarta, in beautiful Indonesia. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Our topic is Islam and the International Monetary Fund, IMF. And so we're talking about Islam and international monetary economics. But how come the speaker has this hat and this beard and this gown? Not supposed to be. Because ulama don't talk on these subjects. That's our problem today. That's our problem today. It's not taught in the institutions of Islamic learning. And so our ulama know nothing on the subject and are yet giving fatwa. We want to begin with that ayah of the Quran that was just recited. I didn't know. I don't know how he knew I was going to recite that ayah. It's a good sign. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولن ترضى عنك اليهود ولن ترضى عنك اليهود ولا النصارى حتى تتبع ملتهم. صدق الله العظيم. Surah Al-Baqarah. And they will never be satisfied, never be content, will never rest until they get you to follow them, to follow their way. Who? The Jews and the Christians will never be content, will never rest, will never be satisfied until they get you to follow them, wherever they go. Is this applicable to all Jews? Can this be true of all Christians? There is a lazy man's methodology of studying the Quran. And the lazy man's methodology is to take one verse in isolation. And then you end up with rubbish on your face. The proper way to study the Quran is different. Let us introduce you to the proper way. Allah taught the lesson at the very beginning of the Quran, the lesson, the most important lesson of usul al-tafsir, or methodology for studying the Quran. At the beginning of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to us and tells us that He ordered the angels to make sajda to Adam alayhi salam. فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ. They all made sajda except Iblis. If we take this ayah of the Quran by itself, then the implication is that Iblis was an angel, because the order was given to the angels. So you cannot escape from the conclusion Iblis must have been an angel. This is the lazy man's methodology. But after having made this announcement that Iblis is an angel, and it was carried on CNN and Al Jazeera, the whole world agreed, then you began to read the rest of the Quran. And when you read more of the Quran, then you found, to your surprise, that angels cannot disobey. Angels do not have any free will. Allah says, وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. Whatever they are ordered to do, they do it. But he disobeyed. So he could not have been an angel. And then in Suratul Kahfi of the Quran, I have to say Kahfi in Indonesia, but outside of Indonesia we say Suratul Kahf of the Quran. In Suratul Kahfi, Allah informs us, وَكَانَ مِنَ الْجِنِّ. Iblis was a jinn. And so now we're looking quite foolish because CNN and Al Jazeera have all announced that we said that Iblis is an angel. So Allah is teaching us a lesson. Do not take any verse of the Quran in isolation, by itself, and hurry to form judgment, to derive meaning. Rather take all the verses of the Quran pertaining to a topic and study them all together to make a meaningful whole, a harmonious whole, because there are no contradictions in the Quran. So you have to bring whatever data you collect has to come together as a meaningful, harmonious whole. Then, and only then, will you be able to get the meaning of the verse. When we do that in this case, we quickly find that Allah would not have been speaking about all Christians. Not all Christians are going to behave in this way, that they will never rest, never be satisfied, until they get us to follow their way. For example, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah says, وَلَتَجِدَنَّ أَقْرَبَهُمْ مَوَدَّةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى. That you will most certainly find, in time to come, that those who will be closest to you in love and affection will be those who say we are An-Nasara Christians. That's not the way of life. Love and affection cannot be combined with getting us to follow their way. So no, Allah could not be speaking about all Jews and all Christians when He said, وَلَنْ تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودَ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ. Well then, which Jews and which Christians? That's the question. Does the Quran answer the question? Yes, it does. If we do our homework. If we do our homework, we will find, for example, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, the crucial verse of the Quran, the absolutely crucial ayah of the Quran for penetrating the IMF, for penetrating the United Nations organization, for penetrating NATO. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have faith in Allah, لا تتخذوا اليهود والنصارى أولياء. Do not take the Jews and do not take the Christians as your friends and allies. It is interesting. If you go and look at all the tarjuma of the Quran, translations, and even when you go to the tafsir in Arabic, it will be interesting to you to find out what do they say about this ayah. That's your homework. Do not take the Jews and do not take the Christians as your friends and allies. Allah could not be speaking about all Jews and all Christians. No. Well then, which Jews and which Christians? The answer is right there in the words which followed. The answer is there in the words which follow. بَعَدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. Meaning, do not take such Jews and such Christians as your friends and allies, who themselves are friends and allies of each other. In other words, the Quran is anticipating that a time is going to come, which of course has already come. A time is going to come when this is going to happen. There is going to be a mysterious reconciliation between some Christians and some Jews, and a Jewish-Christian friendship will emerge, and a Jewish-Christian alliance will emerge. When that happens, those are the Christians and those are the Jews with whom you are prohibited from maintaining friendship and alliance. And those are the Christians and those are the Jews, not all, who will never rest, never be contented, never be satisfied until they get you to follow them. What would be the price that we pay if we defy the Quran, if we disobey the Quran, if we take the Quran and put it behind our backs? The answer is there in the words which follow. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ. Whosoever from amongst you agrees to follow them, because they want you to follow them. They will never be satisfied until they get you to follow them. But whosoever from amongst you turn to them, become their friends, become their allies, follow them, enter into their embrace, the price you will pay is that you lose your Islam. You now belong to them. Allah no longer recognizes you as a Muslim. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. These are simple words in Arabic that you should easily be able to understand. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Whosoever from amongst you turn towards them with friendship and alliance, following them, entering into their embrace, you now belong to them. You are no longer a Muslim. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. Surely Allah does not provide guidance for a people whose trademark is zulm. Their trademark is they are a people of zulm, of wickedness. Has that alliance come into being? Yes, it has. Yes, it has. Today, it is known as the Judeo-Christian Zionist Alliance. But before the Zionist movement was established, it was still there, before. For example, when the Pope in Rome started the Crusades, which of course were European Christian wars, other Christians never joined in it. When the Pope in Rome started the European Jihad Crusades, guess who financed the Crusades? The Jews. So the Jewish-Christian alliance was already there in the making long before the Zionist movement was established. It is this Jewish-Christian alliance which overturned European Christendom. Europe, which had a political system which believed that political authority emerged from above, that it was Allah who legitimized you as king or emperor, and that the Pope was Allah's representative on earth. So the Pope would have to crown you for the people to accept you as king. This was Europe when it was Christendom. And then came the attack from the Judeo-Christian alliance. And European Christendom died and was buried. And modern Western secular civilization emerged out of its ashes. They did it. When modern Western secular civilization emerged, it emerged with an agenda to rule the world. The whole world. Every square inch of the world. The land, the sea, the air. Western civilization wants to take control of the whole world. There's a book I want you to read. It's written by a British historian, Arnold Toynbee. The name of the book is Civilization on Trial. Go to Google and type the name, Civilization on Trial. You'll get the book. It was published in the 1940s. And in that book you will see where Toynbee says that modern Western civilization has this agenda to take control of the whole world. Political control, economic control, military control of the whole world. When you find that passage, translate it for me into Bahasa. And then put it on the internet for the Indonesian people to read. Why do they want to rule the world? What does this have to do with the IMF? You understand something already? I don't need to do the rest of the lecture. Modern Western civilization considers themselves to be the chosen people. Why? The chosen people? Yeah. The Jews say we are the chosen people. We are the superior people. All the rest of mankind are the Gentiles. A prophet, in order to be a prophet, must be a Jew. Can't be a cockroach. And you, Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, you're not a Jew, you're an Arab. How could an Arab ever be the equal of a Jew? Are you nuts? Huh? You got peanuts in your head. An Arab could never be the equal of a Jew, because we are the chosen of the Lord. To which Allah responds in the Quran, إِن زَعَمْتُمْ أَنَّكُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ اللَّهِ مِن دُونِ النَّاسِ فَتَمَنَّوا الْمَوْتَ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ أو كما قال. If you indeed believe that you are the chosen people, to the exclusion of all the rest of mankind, well, why don't you desire death? Surah? Oh, you got homework to do. Surah Al-Jum'ah. Allah responds to this lie. And so modern Western civilization emerged on the stage of history with this arrogant claim that we are the special people, we are the elite of mankind, and all the rest are natives, so we got to civilize these natives. And they're still doing it, because the natives are now celebrating Christmas. Oh yes. And the natives tomorrow will be celebrating Halloween here in Jakarta.
Yes.
And they're going to be having Thanksgiving here in Jakarta. When that happens, get on your motorbike or get on your motor car and head for Kampung. Leave Jakarta to celebrate Christmas. And then they went with their armies and they conquered the whole world. They colonized the world, including Indonesia. But the Indonesians gave them a hard time. They had to take the leaders of the Indonesian Islamic movement and ship them to Cape Town. It was so hard. Everywhere else where the British went, the natives are speaking English. Where the French went, the natives are speaking French, sometimes better than the French themselves. But when they came to this Indonesia, the Indonesians wouldn't give up their language. And if you find an Indonesian speaking Dutch today, then I want to send him with a one-way ticket to the moon. After they colonized, their plan was to decolonize, but still to rule the rest of the world by proxy, to set up institutions by which they could continue to rule. We don't have the time to study all those institutions, but he is a diplomat. Where is he? Yeah, an Indonesian diplomat. He got to study this subject. All the international institutions which were established, so that they could continue to rule by proxy. One of them was the International Monetary Fund. In the Quran, Allah has given us money. In the Hadith, Allah, in the Sunnah, Nabi Muhammad has given us money. Did you know that the word dinar is in the Quran? I wonder what answer we're going to give in the grave. Did you know that the word dirham is in the Quran? I wonder what answer we'll give in the grave. Because we're going to have to answer in the grave for abandoning the Quran. Because that's what we've done. And when dinar and dirham were in short supply in Medina, what would they use as money? Kurma, dates, yes, dates, or wheat, or barley, or salt. But it was always precious metals, gold and silver. And only when gold and silver were in short supply would they use commodities of food consumption which had a shelf life, not mangoes, which were in abundant supply in the market, and which had intrinsic value. The value of the money was always inside the money, and it was a value created by Allah and not by a fellow named George Soros. This is money in Islam. And this money remained in Java until the Judeo-Christian alliance colonized it. And when they decolonized, then they gave you another money, another kind of money made of paper. I don't know whether you've ever seen it. Let me show it to you. Let me show it to you. Here, if you've never seen it. Made of paper. And they say, this is money. The Judeo-Christian alliance. And Allah says, وَلَنْ تَرْضَ عَنْكَ الْيَهُودَ وَالنَّصَارَ حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ. And they will never be satisfied until they get you to accept their money and abandon your money. At the end of the Second World War, when they were winning the war, in 1944, I was born in 1942, so I was already 2 years of age. They gathered all the world together, those who were winning the war, in an international conference in upstate New York in a place called Bretton Woods. He has to study the subject very well as a diplomat. And in Bretton Woods they fashioned something called an international monetary system. Never had a subject like that in history before. Monetary economics did not exist. No, because there was only one money. Gold dinar and silver dirham, that was the money of the whole world. But from 1697, I think, when the Bank of England was established, then they began to experiment with this in Europe. And then came the big colonial wars, and then the colonization, and then the discreet introduction of the paper in place of the gold and silver, and the ulama were taken for a ride. Our ulama failed and failed miserably to understand what was happening. So when they held a conference in upstate New York, they fashioned a monetary system called the Bretton Woods Accord. And on the basis of that Bretton Woods Accord, the International Monetary Fund was established, the World Bank was established, etc. And the International Monetary Fund had a constitution, like the UN has a charter. And every country in the world must join the IMF. And when you join the IMF, you've got to sign, you've got to accede to the constitution. It is called the Articles of Agreement. And guess what they put in there? You wouldn't believe it. Dr. Mahathir in Malaysia didn't know about it. No. They said in that document, it is haram to use gold as money. Go and check it out if you don't believe me. It is haram, meaning you are not permitted. It is illegal. You are not allowed to use gold as money. Allah created the gold and gave it to you as money. And they say it's halal, haram. He said it's halal, they say it's haram. And then we all accepted it. We follow them into the shirk. And in Sahih Bukhari, the result of this shirk is located. Every time we use the paper, we follow them into the shirk because gold is no longer money. Only this is money. In Sahih Bukhari, the hadith is repeated 4 times. That on Judgment Day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to Adam alayhi salam and says to him, take out the people for Jahannam. And Adam alayhi salam asks, how many are they? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replies and he says, out of every 1,000, take 999 for Jahannam. So long as you're using this paper, you're heading for the hellfire. So long as you're using this paper, you're heading for Jahannam. You don't believe me? Wait until you're in the grave. I am also using it. I know the subject. What do we do? The answer is, we have to bring back the Sunnah that we abandoned, that the Judeo-Christian alliance refuses to allow us to use, dinar and dirham. And if you have a shortage of dinar and dirham in your market, or if the police come and seize your dinar and dirham, which they will do, what do you do? If you are in Java, in Indonesia, you are in the best place on the face of the earth. There is no place better in the world today than Java, in Indonesia, to bring back the Sunnah money. Because if you have a shortage of gold and silver, what would you use as money?
Rice.
Paras. Paras, not nasi. And if you are in Cuba,
Sugar.
sugar, gula. Is it gula? Gula. Sugar, not tobacco, eh? Fidel Castro doesn't smoke cigars anymore. We say, this is our answer to get out of the shirk. We're not talking about the ribas yet, we're only talking about the shirk. To get out of the shirk, we have to stop using the paper. We have to return to the Sunnah of dinar and dirham. And if there's a shortage of dinar and dirham, we're going to use paras as rice as money. We say that can't be done in downtown Jakarta.
No.
We say it can be done in Kampung, in the remote countryside, in small villages, not big. And we establish our micro market. And in these micro markets, we make the effort. And that is all that Allah asks of us, to make the effort. اتقوا الله ما استطعتم. Surah Al-Taghabun. Fear Allah to the extent that you have capacity to do so. So at least make the effort to bring back the Sunnah that we've abandoned. When they established the IMF, not only did they make dinar haram, and by implication dirham haram, and therefore made haram what Allah made halal, which is shirk. They did more than that. They made this the money of the world. They wanted that the United States of America should rule the world. Prior to this, Britain was the ruling state, and the world witnessed Pax Britannica, and the sterling pound was the international currency. But now the time has come for the United States to take over from Britain. So Dajjal will move into stage 2. You know, he has 3 stages. Yawmun kasana, Yawmun kashaka, Yawmun Kajuma, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, get my book, Jerusalem in the Quran. Alhamdulillah, we have it in Bahasa. It's translated into Bahasa. Once you can get it through the Indonesian customs, you can get it here. That's your problem, to get it through the Indonesian customs. So just stay in touch with me by email. I can ship it to you from Malaysia. Or I can give you permission here to print it. Right here. It's already published, it's already translated into Bahasa. Dajjal passes through 3 stages before he will appear as a human being. My analysis led me to the conclusion that stage 1, Britain becomes the ruling state. I never said that Britain is Dajjal. Don't you ever say that. I said that in stage 1 of Dajjal's mission, Britain becomes the ruling state. And the sterling pound becomes the international currency. But there is still the convertibility to gold. The sterling pound was even in a gold coin. The sterling pound was a gold coin. And there was also a sterling pound in paper, convertible. And then in stage 2, the United States has to take over from Britain. And now we are poised on the verge of stage 3, when the United States must go down, so that Israel can replace the United States as the new and third ruling state in the world. So Pax Britannica gave way to Pax Americana. You listening? There you go, America. And Pax Americana is now giving way to Pax Judaica. Pax means peace, so they're lying. This is not peace, it's only war. Pax Judaica is not peace, it's war. At the International Monetary Fund, they decided that only the US dollar will have any integrity, meaning that the US dollar had a link with gold, that it was convertible into gold, or to use the technical term, you could redeem it for gold. At what rate? $35 US would buy you 1 ounce of gold. So long as the United States remained faithful to that legal commitment and don't change it and don't abandon it, the US dollar is halal. Halal because it is functioning as a check. It is functioning as a promissory note. That I write a note and I have witnesses that I owe you this money. And you can take that paper and hand it in and get the money. So the US dollar was like a promissory note, like a check. And you can go and cash it. 35 of them you can cash for 1 ounce of gold. This is international law. However, if you have an obligation to cash the check, you should not be writing out more checks than you have money. I have 100 dinars in my account, and I write out checks for 1,000. I went around the corner and I bought a BMW, and I wrote out a check for 1,000 dinars. When they went to cash the check, the money is not in the account. So then I should be sent to jail. But the United States can't be sent to jail. Yes, that's what they did. This is fraudulent. This is theft, legalized theft. A people of morals and integrity don't behave like this. Only crooks behave like this. That you write out more checks than you have money in your account. So they printed more US dollars than they had gold. And the world was accepting the paper without seeking to cash the checks. If they had attempted to cash the checks, then the bank would bust. But nobody attempted to cash the checks. They did something else. They said only one paper, only one, will be redeemable in gold, that's the US dollar. So that the US dollar will become the king currency, the international currency. So the United States will be recognized as the ruler of the world. What about all the rest of the paper of the world? The rest of the paper of the world had no link with gold. None. Rather, the value of the paper is linked to the US dollar. So we've all now become stepchildren of Uncle Sam. We've all now become stepchildren of Uncle Sam because our money is linked to his money. My gosh, will the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ ever become a stepchild of Uncle Sam? Will that ever happen? Will the ulama of Islam ever allow that to happen? No. What are we going to do on Judgment Day? We who have abandoned the Quran, we who have abandoned the Sunnah, and yet consider ourselves to be good Muslims. It's not our failure, it's the failure of the ulama. What a terrible failure to be. They did something else as well. I mean, these fellows were really clever. The law of the IMF was that once you become a member of the IMF, you have to declare how much gold you have. See how cunning they are? And after you have declared how much gold you have to deposit 1/3, is it 1/3? 1/3 of your gold has to be deposited in Washington to be a member of the IMF. So they're holding 1/3 of your gold hostage. And they can now measure how much gold you have. Because the law requires that you must record and must announce every time you sell gold. The law, you cannot sell gold privately. It must be done in public. So in the IMF, they will know how much gold you have left and how much you have left until you have none left. In 1960 something, maybe 66, somewhere around there, Charles de Gaulle of France, he didn't like American imperialism at all. Even when John Kennedy married, what's her name, Jacqueline, took a French wife, became president, and took his French wife to Paris, it didn't break the ice. Charles de Gaulle was not at all happy with American imperialism. And Charles de Gaulle and Dr. Muhammad Mahathir, these are the only two. Charles de Gaulle recognized that this was fraud. And he stood up in the French National Assembly and he gave a lecture denouncing this monetary system as US imperialism. A few years after his death, I was told, France in 1971 went to Washington and asked for the gold. Here are the US dollars, we want the gold. Because the law, international law, required the United States to change the dollars for gold at $35 an ounce. Richard Nixon knew that the game was up. And so what he did was to tear up the IMF, the Bretton Woods Accord, and renege on the international obligation. And say, well, we gave our word, but the American government doesn't have to keep its word. In Islam, we have Surah Al-Ma'idah, and in the very first word, the very first verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah, you must honor your obligations. Very first verse. In Latin, it's called Pacta sunt servanda. The treaty obligations must be honored. Otherwise, the world is going to end up in chaos. And so since 1971, even the US dollar doesn't have this fig leaf of respectability. It's just naked. There is no link with gold. And so since 1971, they can now start bringing down the value of the dollar. From 35 it went to 40. By 1973, October 73, a war took place between Israel and the Arabs. King Faisal, rahimahullah, was alive. And King Faisal was a different kind of Saudi, because he was a Zionist, the rest are all Zionists. Saudi Arabia has now become Israel's most strategic ally in the world. Saudi Arabia and India, after the United States and Britain. But not King Faisal, rahimahullah. He imposed an oil boycott on the United States. An oil boycott. When that war took place and the oil boycott took place, the US dollar collapsed by 400% overnight. Like nothing has ever been seen before. The only thing worse than this is what is coming when Israel attacks Iran. Wait and see. From $40 an ounce, the US dollar fell to 160. And then in January of 1980, the US dollar fell in the wake of the American intervention in Afghanistan. The Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. And the US dollar fell to $850 an ounce of gold. Guess where it is today? About 1,700, I believe. About $1,700 to 1 ounce of gold. But as the US dollar fell, amazingly, all the rest of the paper money in the world were also falling with it. There are some paper money that are called hard currencies. I made a joke in a conference in Brunei, international conference with scholars from different parts of the world present. And I made a joke and nobody laughed. I said that they print their paper and they have a secret chemical. And they dip the paper in the chemical, it comes out as hard currency. Nobody laughed. It meant that the scholars of Islam actually believed me. We don't have the secret chemical. So we don't have Australian dollars, and sterling pound, and euros, and American dollars. The Singapore dollar, Brunei. Well, our paper is not hard currency. And so as the dollar went down, all the rest of the paper money in the world also going down with it. However, Some are going down faster than others. When Dajjal wants to punish you, your paper goes down faster than the rest. When you support Dajjal, then your paper becomes hard currency. And that's how the system was used until where it is today. At this moment in time, they don't need the paper anymore. So what they did is that they themselves are bringing down the US dollar. It is a controlled demolition of the US dollar that is being done by the Zionists. The US dollar has now reached that stage where it is essentially dead, but it is kept alive in the ICU, intensive care unit of the hospital. But even there they won't be able to keep it alive once Israel attacks Iran. And the Israelis know it, that in attacking Iran they're going to destroy the United States. They know it. Because the price of oil is going to shoot up, out of the roof. The price of gold is going to shoot up. But it's not the price of gold that's going up, you dumb. It's the value of the paper going down, you dumb. It's the US dollar collapsing. And they're going to have to demonetize the US dollar, meaning it can't be used to buy and sell. No longer be recognized as legal tender. When the US dollar collapses, that's the end of the world of paper money. They don't need it anymore. Maybe paper money will survive as souvenirs of an age gone by, when there were so many donkeys in the world. And the new money will replace it. The new money, of course, which Israel will now control. Absolute control. The new money is money that you can't see. Did you hear? Money you can't see. Money you can't touch.
Electronic.
Electronic money. And electronic money is created not by governments but by banks.
Yes.
And it is not an anti-Semitic statement. No. It is a factual statement that the Zionists control the banking system in the world today. If I'm not allowed to make that statement, I might as well go and drive a taxi in Jamaica, in Jakarta. It's a factual statement. So they are the ones who now will control money in the money supply system of the world. You can't take your money out of the bank. No. Try it. See what you can take out. There's nothing to take out. It's electronic money. You can only transfer money from one account to another. That's all. You cannot take it out. You are trapped. You are trapped. The rope is around your neck. And if you dare to stand up to Israel, you lose your money. Yeah. They just have to type it out. And the others who stand up and support Israel, we recognize Israel. Oh yes, an Israeli embassy in Jakarta, an Israeli embassy in Kuala Lumpur, and we roll out the red carpet for the Israeli ambassador. Just don't touch our bank account, please. This is the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam today. Nothing to laugh about, rather to cry if we have tears to cry. Electronic money is going to bring to the world the equivalent of a financial and monetary Guantanamo. I know about Guantanamo because Guantanamo is in the Caribbean. And I am from the Caribbean, I am from Trinidad. And Guantanamo is in Cuba. That is what is coming. with electronic money. And when electronic money takes over, you can't even buy masakan padang without their knowing it. They know every transaction that you make. They know how much you spend. They know where you spent it. They know when you spent it. They know how much you have left in your account. Never before in history has there or will ever be a more spectacular success in reducing all of mankind to donkeys. Yeah. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا. Says Allah in the Quran, you have the book. Oh yes, you do. But you do not live up to your responsibilities and obligations to the book. It's just like a load of books on the back of a donkey. That's where we are today. My understanding, and I can be wrong, whenever I give my opinion, I will be disappointed if you accept my opinion. A good teacher doesn't want his student to accept every word he says. A good teacher wants to produce good students. And good students are those who will carefully examine. And only when they are convinced that an opinion is correct, only then will they accept it. So I can leave the world, the angel can come and take me away, knowing that I'm leaving behind students who are not donkeys. Who are not donkeys. My opinion is that probably they're going to wrap up the UN. They don't need it anymore. Probably they don't even need the IMF anymore when you have electronic money. Probably there's going to be only one currency in the world tomorrow. Only one. So no need to convert money from one currency to another. And so it facilitates Israel ruling the world from Jerusalem. Israel wants to rule the world. Why? Simple. So that Dajjal can stand up in Jerusalem, maybe about 20, 25 years from now, will stand up in Jerusalem. Most of you here should be living at that time to see it. And would say from Jerusalem, I am the Messiah. And all these Judeo-Christian alliance will hail him as the Messiah. What about the Muslims? You and I would recognize him to be Dajjal. And we'll say, you are not the Messiah, you are Dajjal, and the sake of Dajjal. But unfortunately, there are brothers, and they are my brothers, and I don't speak disrespectfully of them. No. They will say, no, he cannot be Dajjal. Why?
He's human.
Because the Prophet said that Dajjal is going to ride on a donkey. And the donkey will travel as fast as the clouds. And the donkey will have his ears stretched out wide. Where is his flying donkey? We will say, we recognize this as religious symbolism. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِنْ تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. There is such a thing as religious symbolism in dreams, in visions, and Allah taught that subject. It's not taught in universities. No. And Yusuf alayhi salam was taught ta'wil, the interpretation of religious symbolism. And so he said to his father, Father, this is the meaning of the dream. When Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam and the brothers bow down before Yusuf alayhi, Father, this is the meaning of the dream. He interpreted the religious symbolism that the sun and the moon and 11 stars did not mean the sun in the sky and the moon in the sky and 11 stars in the sky. No. But our Salafi brothers, and they are our brothers, and we do not speak ill of our brothers. No. We must have love in our hearts for our brothers. And so when we enter into a discussion on a subject, a difference of opinion, we do not do it in a way to disrespect or disparage. No. They say we must see the flying donkey. We say the flying donkey is already here. It's the modern aircraft. Because we recognize this to be religious symbolism. Dajjal is going to step into the ocean and the water will reach him up to his knee. But he in Jerusalem, if he steps into the ocean, he'll sink down. He can't be Dajjal. We say it is religious symbolism. The Dajjal will demonstrate the technology to reach down to the bottom of the ocean and pick up things as though the water was reaching up to his knee. Dajjal will be jumping between the heavens and the earth. He can't be Dajjal because we don't see him jumping up to the sky. We say this is religious symbolism. It represents or it symbolizes the capacity to send your rockets up and down, to send the shuttle up and down to a spacecraft up there. And then they will say, he cannot be Dajjal, because the Prophet said, Dajjal sees with his left eye, he's blind in the right eye. It looks like a punching bag. And on his forehead, between his eyes, is written the word kafir. We are not seeing the word kafir written between his forehead, so he cannot be Dajjal. And this man sees with two eyes, and Dajjal sees with one, so he cannot be Dajjal. Unfortunately, there are large numbers of Muslims, unfortunately, at this point in time, who will remain like that until the day. And on that day when Dajjal is standing there in Jerusalem, they will say he is not Dajjal. We say the left eye symbolizes external sight. The blind right eye symbolizes internal blindness. If the heart cannot see, the Western cattle, Allah says they have eyes and yet do not see. They have ears and yet do not hear. They have hearts and yet do not understand. They're just like cattle. All those who follow Dajjal are going to be like cattle. Imran, Hossein is not speaking with arrogance now. No. This is not arrogance. Do they not remember? Why should I have to repeat and recall and remind? That in Sahih Bukhari, Nabi Muhammad ﷺ is reported to have said that Nabuwa or prophethood is comprised of 46 different parts. He said, after me nothing remains of Nabuwa or prophethood in the world except one part. There is one part of Nabuwa or prophethood still remaining in the world up to this day right here in Jakarta. What is it? He said it is Al-Mubashirat. They asked what is Al-Mubashirat. He said Ru'ya Sadiqa Ru'ya salihah. It's when the heart can see, when the internal eye can see a vision. True knowledge comes. Knowledge doesn't come only from the Quran and from the Ahadith. No. Knowledge also comes directly to the heart. When Allah grants to the heart Ru'ya Sadiqa and Ru'ya Salihah, and that is the last remaining part of prophethood left in the world today. And in Surah Al-Kahfi of the Quran, Allah gave us the model of Khidr alayhi salam. وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّ عِلْمًا. Knowledge came directly to him from Allah. And if you want to find that man who is the most learned in the world in Akhirul Zaman, you got to go to Majma'ul Bahrain, the place where the two oceans meet. And may Allah bless Imam al-Baydawi, rahimahullah, who interpreted as religious symbolism. The place where the two oceans meet is not Atlantic and Pacific. Imam al-Badawi says it is the ocean of knowledge externally acquired and the ocean of knowledge internally received. When these two oceans of knowledge come together and are harmoniously integrated, now you have the most learned of all men. Now you have the believer who will be able to see what otherwise cannot be seen. اتقوا فراسة المؤمن فإنه ينظر بنور الله. Fear the firasa of the mu'min, the wisdom that comes from internal intuitive spiritual insight. For when he sees with the nur of Allah. If we had that nur, we would not have failed with this paper. We would not be where we are today if we had that nur. They would not have taken us for a ride, and we would not be slaves in the world today. With our daughters as slaves in Singapore, cooking lahmul khinzir. Our daughters are working like a slave, and at the end of the month being paid 300 Singapore dollars. No Singaporean woman will work for that wage, none. She's a slave in Singapore. She's a slave in Malaysia. She's worse than a slave in Dubai and in Saudi Arabia. If we had Nur, our daughters won't be slaves today. Shame on us. Shame on us. Shame on us. And so our subject on Islam and the International Monetary Fund is a wake-up call for a new generation of ulama who will study the world today using the Quran and using the Ahadith and using the nur that Allah sent with which to read and understand. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا يَا مَوْلَانَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ بِرَحْمَتِكَ يَا أَرْحَمَ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Ameen. We have a little time for questions and answers.
Yeah. Question and answers, maybe from the audience.
If the sister wants a question, she can write it out properly. Just send the question up to me.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Beberapa hari yang lalu saya bertemu dengan Presiden Jerman Christian Wolff di UI. Beliau mengatakan bahwa negara Islam di seluruh dunia, ya saya juga nggak ngerti negara Islam yang mana itu. Negara Islam di seluruh dunia itu seharusnya bisa mengikuti jalan Indonesia dalam menjaga toleransi antar beragama. Pertanyaan saya, ya, pertanyaan saya, apa sebenarnya peranan Indonesia dalam Muslim Indonesia dalam pergerakan Islam secara global?
What is the role of the Indonesian Muslims? I cannot speak for those who abandon Allah and His Messenger and celebrating Christmas or New Year's. But those who remain faithful to Allah and His Messenger, what is your role? I have already answered that question. I said those of you who live in the island of Java, not Sumatra, Java, you have more favorable conditions in Java than anybody else to bring back Sunnah money. There are many in Java who are talking about dinar and dirham. I know about it. They're even minting dinar and dirham. I know about it. Why aren't they establishing markets? Why are they not establishing markets which will use dinar and dirham? And we don't mean dinar and dirham alongside the bogus money. من رأى منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه وإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. If you see something which is bogus and fraudulent, change it with your hand. And the paper money is bogus and fraudulent. So in Java you should build micro markets in the remote countryside. Not one, hundreds and thousands, and spread them out all over. The Zionists are going to grind their teeth with anger. If you do it in Jakarta, it's easy for them to shut you down. But when you have your markets scattered all over the remote countryside, they don't have the resources. They can't do it to shut down all of those. And if they come and they seize your dinar and dirham, they can't stop you because you will start using bars as money. Yeah. That's the answer.
Okay, maybe one more question.
My name is Jati. I'm just curious. The biggest gold mine in Indonesia is occupied by the U.S. company that's called Freeport. I don't know, about 80 to 90% of Indonesians gold as in Freeport in Papua. So do you have any link with this fact?
Wherever there is gold in the world, the Zionists seek to control it. Wherever there is oil in the world, the Zionists seek to control it. This is not new, old news, okay? Old news. But if you have a shortage of gold, you will use rice as money. The important thing is not to go down further into slavery. If you sit down where you are and do nothing, you're going to go down into further slavery. And Allah will not intervene to change your condition. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah will not intervene to change your condition unless and until you take the initiative using His guidance to change your condition. And I have given you the answer. You are better placed than any other Muslims in the world. You are to challenge the paper money. So go ahead and do it. Any more questions? Yes.
I read a book about the pattern of World Bank and IMF. But first they will approaching the what do you call it, the governments, and the government corrupt. Or the pattern will be, at the end, the leaders who fight with them will be killed. So starting from corrupt, encourage corrupt, and then approaching some community and then kill the leader. So
The-
how do
I am surprised. You are here in Java. You know the subject better. Better than many people in the United States. I just came to Surabaya yesterday, and they display a level of sophistication in understanding the economic, the nature of the economic attacks, the nature of the monetary attacks, that left me astonished. Huh? John Perkins' book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, reached Surabaya already. So this is their methodology. They found one Saudi in their way, and he was assassinated. Faisal. Faisal had established an alliance with Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and he was gone. Ziaul Haq was their man, but then Ziaul Haq, something happened to his heart and he became our man. And then his aeroplane fell out of the sky. And so their favorite method is assassination. They just did that to our brother, the Sheikh Anwar Awlaki, Rahimahullah. The reason why I am alive, of course it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who determines when anyone will die. But the other reason is that I am not an Arab. Had I been an Arab, I'd be dead already. They'd have tried to assassinate me already. So anyone who stands in their way, they seek to get rid of you. But sometimes they have to weigh the cost. If you assassinate Malcolm X, you end up with a bigger problem that you had before. وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٍ بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. So they cut down the tree and it is still growing. Malcolm X. So some people still remain, because if you attempt to cut them down, you end up with a bigger problem. Ron Paul is not that big a scholar. No. But Ron Paul is a different kind of politician. Huh? And Ron Paul is still alive. Perhaps one of the reasons why his aeroplane has not fallen out of the sky as yet is because they have calculated that if we get rid of him, we might end up with a bigger problem. Yes, I think we finished.
Yeah.
I think we finished, and I believe there are many questions still now meant to be questioned. I'll say, but we need to close this lecture with the kafaratul majlis. Alhamdulillah, bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Isya prayer.